Hey everybody, I have a new theory what narcissism and psychopathy really are, based on the DSM-5 or the cluster B personality disorders. And my theory or my concept works in the following way. The underlying dynamic is always a traumatic event combined with childhood experiences, as well as probably a genetic disposition, leading to a borderline state. So an event that triggers the borderline condition, a post-traumatic condition. And it is characterized by the loss of the sacrifice, actually, the loss and the sacrifice of the authentic self. And we know this, or we could argue that, borderliners report inner emptiness. They report like a black hole inside them. And of course, this can lead to depression and the mood swings, as well as to the real danger of that 10% of all borderliners end up taking their own life. So there is an inner emptiness, and this exactly means this describes the sacrifice of the authentic self. So, in other words, borderliners are selfless. They don't have an ego. That is sacrificed. The authentic self is sacrificed. Ego is not a bad thing. Ego death is the worst that can happen to you. It means you lose yourself. And the borderline condition is the most honest of all the cluster B conditions, in my theory, in my point of view, because it is aware of exactly what happens and it really feels that pain. It feels real emotions, waves of uncontrollable emotion, these mood swings and dramatic outbursts, the push and pull dynamics in relationships of the terror of abandonment, as well as the terror of the fear of real intimacy, because this would again mean confrontation with the inner emptiness. There is no one inside, you see. And in that sense, it's the underlying most honest mode. And in terms of self-efficacy, it's more functional than the narcissist, but less functional than the psychopath. So let's now transition to the narcissist. So narcissism and psychopathy, in my point of view, are defensive reactions against the borderline principle. The borderline principle is a principle to organize personality characterized by this inner emptiness, can be depression, the connected depression, the mood disorders, the object constancy, meaning there must always be someone to externally kind of stabilize the borderline, external regulation, and abandonment, anxiety. All right. The narcissist defends against all of these things that are part of them are disadvantages and scaring. The inner emptiness is very scary. And the narcissist defends against that through fantasy, meaning they do defy the reality of the borderline state and refer to fantasy. They do this by inventing a kind of invisible friend, a godlike friend, a godlike fantastic creature with features like superiority and omnipotence, and they become this. They invent an identity for themselves that is counterfactual and counter-historic. It is not linked to the history of the narcissist, to the memories are repressed, they are lost. It's not a continuous identity, but it is a new invention. It is an ever new invented fantasy of superiority and omnipotence. This is the identity of the narcissist. And if we speak about narcissists, it's always covert narcissism, because overt narcissism is psychopathy. So again, the narcissist defends against this inner emptiness by creating a false self that is superior and delusional, non-historic, grandiose, entitled, and needs an environment where this fantasy is validated, a highly curated, selected, closed, cult-like environment, and people confronting the narcissist with reality receive, they are ostracized out of the cult, and they're getting a silent treatment, because the narcissist would decompensate if he would be confronted with reality, because reality negates his inflated, counterfactual, grandiose, omnipotent sense of self, right? So the archetype of this is kind of a person that has grandiosely and uniquely failed in all parts of life, and then emerges from this as a guru who tells other people what to do. So there we see delusionality, superiority, victimhood, entitlement, everything all together. That's it. It's a person who failed to solve life, and therefore now concludes, I can now teach other people and give them advice of how to live. This kind of delusionality, and this is very captivating, because this form of charm, you meet a person who seems to be superior, at the same time intoxicated and innocent like a child, infantilized, but superior and being able to give advice. This is, you are drawn into a crazy malignant fantasy, and you can't help it, because the narcissist interacts only exclusively with fantasy, not with you, with real people, with reality, or anything else. So this is this form of defense, but it is less self-efficacy. The self-efficacy is reduced compared to the borderline. And it is more disguised, more surreptitious, and therefore arguably more dangerous for society. The borderline shows the dysfunction. The covert narcissist tries to hide it because he's superior, he can't fail, and he is a victim. And the psychopath defends against the underlying borderline state, the sacrifice of the true self, that results in the inner emptiness through, and also the waves of unbearable emotions. The psychopath compensates or deals or defenses defense against that again through inner numbing, detachment. It's a cognitive, like an artificial intelligence. It's cognitive empathy, performative empathy, performative emotions. So emotions can be used, instrumentalized. They are kind of perceived as information, but when you can reach your goal, the psychopath is highly goal oriented, has functioning reality testing, and when the psychopath gets closer to the goal by performing emotions, they will perform emotions. But if the goal will be reached by detaching from emotion, they will detach from emotions. It's a shallowness, and not necessarily cruelty, but indifference towards other people, because empathy is merely cognitive. They can do it. They can also read emotional cues of others, but they can also detach from it. They can say, I don't feel the pain of you or of myself. I don't. If I don't want to, I don't. So it's this detachment, it's a form of shallowness, like superficial charm, too much of everything, an abundance of strong emotional displays. Everything is just too good to be true, but over time, there will remain a shallowness, a deadness, an emptiness, a feeling of a strong, colorful makeup facade, but behind it, there is emptiness and deadness. And the child, the inner child, that seems to be so authentic, captivating, and worth protecting is actually a arrested, exiled child that tries to relive a childhood and kind of save this thing that has been numbed, um, and yeah, that has been numbed to survive. So the psychopath has the highest self-efficacy, arguably in today's environment even is better adapted for this today's world than a normal human being, as much as this is a provocative thesis. But I'm talking about type 1 psychopath that has strong um, impulse control and relies so much of a perfect image that you know, they kind of express negative affects, negative emotions via proxy. They use other people to do this. And yeah, that's the so-called high-functioning psychopath. So yeah, my thesis here again is that we have the underlying, and this also explains the magical connection between borderline and narcissism and borderline and psychopathy. Often these are diagnosed comorbid, and also they can switch to states. The borderliner can switch to psychopathic stages, the psychopath can switch to borderline states, the narcissist can become borderline, and a narcissist can become psychopathic under pressure, under adverse circumstances, etc. All of this is explained because the underlying condition is a post-traumatic one, a borderline state, the sacrifice of the true self, and to defend against that, the narcissist uses fantasy, a highly curated special environment that supports and that is trained to validate this grandiose fantasy that is counterfactual and counterhistoric, and the psychopath is defending through inner numbing and instrumentalization of everything that makes a human being human, and thereby, yeah, becoming like a mechanical machine, but very self-efficacious and efficient, just leaving behind over a long time observation the feeling of emptiness and a shallowness. Um, but again, it's uncanny replication of a human being. So this is my few cents about this topic. Yeah, just wanted to share this.